This week, Emma Reilly lost her job at the UN for her troubles as a whistleblower. Emma joins us now. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So talk us through what, from last year when you appeared on this show till the moment that you lost your job, how difficult it had been for you. What were your struggles? What were you attempting to do with the UN and your position? And did you have any success in getting out this information beyond the conversation we had? And then, of course, talk us to the point of how you lost your job.
Sure. First of all, I want to make really clear, I'm not the victim here. The victims here are the people whose names are handed over. They're their family members who are tortured by the Chinese government as a result. Shortly after I appeared on your show last time, I was placed under investigation. The UN does not accuse me of lying. I am accused of telling the truth in public. And according to the UN, me revealing a UN policy has a negative impact on the reputation of the UN. So rather than look at why that would have a negative impact and the fact that complicity in genocide might be a bad idea, the UN decided that its approach was going to be to shut me up by whatever means necessary. The UN decided...
Very quickly, what was your formal position at the UN?
I was a human rights officer.
So this is your job?
Yeah. My job is literally to try to stop human rights abuses. I consider genocide to be one of the worst human rights abuses, and I was trying to stop the UN from being complicit in that. Instead of doing anything about the policy, anything to correct the policy, anything to investigate the policy, anything to stop handing over these names, the UN decided to go into attack mode against me. The UN has tried various things to shut me up. They informally approached my lawyer and offered me a large sum of money if I would sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Emma, they tried to buy your silence?
Yes, they did. When I took them to court, when a judge was about to rule in my favour, the UN took the extraordinary measure of removing a judge from one day to the next. He was only seized of my cases. He had heard all three of them. He had published his judgment in one where he said that Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General himself, had unilaterally decided not to apply UN rules in my case. He was about to rule in my favour in the other two cases. He was going to reveal this policy publicly in a judgment because in court the UN admits it completely. It says it's unreasonable of me to think there's a problem. The UN told him not to come to work the next day. I was recognised as a whistleblower internally in the UN. The person who recognised me as a whistleblower said that the UN administration was retaliating against me, that if nothing was done, I would end up being fired and that I must be immediately protected because this is a very grave case. They ignored it. There was an audit of UN whistleblower protection. They spoke to me as their main case. They were going to reveal that the UN has no whistleblower protection. The entire system is designed to protect the corrupt and punish those with ethics. They shut down the audit. The UN had one meeting this year about Uyghurs, the first it's ever had. That was held on the 12th of May this year. I was participating remotely. And I had registered my participation. I planned to take the floor. 5 minutes into the meeting, my doorbell rang. Armed Swiss police were at my door. They had been sent by the UN to make sure, the UN wanted to make absolutely sure that I did not speak in that meeting. This is the kind of organisation we are dealing with.
Hold on. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Why are armed police turning up at your door to make sure that you don't speak at a panel on this topic at the UN?
It's called swatting. If you really want to silence someone, you pretend that there's an emergency at their home. And, persuading the police that I wasn't in any imminent grave danger takes time. By the time I finish doing that, the meeting's over and I've not spoken.
Do you know who sent the police?
The UN. It was the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in Geneva. I have made a criminal complaint, but of course the UN has diplomatic immunity, as does everyone who works for the UN.
But how do you know it was the UN that sent the armed police?
The police told me.
The police told you the UN sent them?
They were shocked. When they saw that I wasn't some kind of danger to myself, they could clearly see that. They were shocked. They told me that it was the UN that had told them that I was in an imminent grave danger. There is no coincidence that this happens 5 minutes into the only meeting that has ever happened about Uyghurs at the UN.
And then how soon after that incident did you lose your job?
That was in May. I lost my job this week. I have been obviously continuing to say exactly what I said to you. As I said, I'm not accused of lying. When the Dutch foreign minister repeated what the UN says about me in the Dutch parliament, I'm able to sue a government. I took him to the Dutch courts. I won. He was required to correct the parliamentary record and correct some tweets. The truth here is very clear. I am telling the truth. The UN is handing names of dissidents to the Chinese government, including UK citizens. And the UN just wants...
Including UK citizens?
Exactly, including UK citizens. There are UK citizens whose names have been transmitted to China. Their family members in China have suffered consequences. Some of the people on the list that China asks about, but who happily haven't been accredited to any UN meetings, are British academics based in China. Given what we know about how China uses hostage diplomacy, I would have thought the UK government might have been slightly concerned about that.
And you mentioned the UK government. Again, since we last spoke, and even up until this point where the news has been published and I've put it out on my feeds that you've lost your job, why do you think this hasn't been a bigger scandal even in the media?
I don't know. On Wednesday, the day that I lost my job, there was a one-page profile of me in a French newspaper, Le Monde. But wow. I don't know. One of the reasons is that the UN has, and the spokesperson has confirmed to me this is a policy. The UN's policy when it comes to whistleblowers is to discredit us by any means necessary. For male whistleblowers, usually they accuse them of some form of sexual misconduct. For female whistleblowers, we're all hysterical. We have mental health problems. You shouldn't listen to what we're saying. So instead of actually looking at the evidence, newspaper journalists get very concerned because you expect a UN spokesperson to be sort of reasonable and diplomatic. For example, I have some emails when some other whistleblowers who reported child sex abuse are described in these emails sent to a journalist as despicable, disgusting, and apologies for language, the shittiest people that he's ever worked with. These are people who were reporting child rape.
Which has since been confirmed, has it not, Emma?
Of course. They had already, 3 years prior to these emails being sent, they had already been completely cleared in an investigation that was very critical of UN management, stating that these people wanted to stop children being raped and UN management only cared about its reputation. The same is true here. But when I write to the UK government about this, and I say, your citizens' names are being handed to China, you need to insist on investigation, the UK government writes back to me and says, we don't get involved in internal employment issues. Complicity in genocide is not an employment issue.
Emma, final question for you because we have to go to the news, but thank you for joining us. And no doubt we will be continuing this with you on this story as it develops. And hopefully it does develop, at least now that we have these shocking revelations that you're telling us on air. Honestly, I'm surprised at the extent of it. Even I, who's been following this story, didn't realize just how shocking this is until you started speaking. Now, the question I'd like to put to you is, does this, the relationship between China and the UN, is there a broader pattern here in terms of China's influence over the international bodies and what you've seen at the UN? Does it concern you that some form of capture has happened? The Chinese regime has some form of disproportionate influence over the United Nations?
Absolutely. And the problem, it goes right to the top. Everything is seen as a bargaining chip. It is no coincidence that after years of reporting this, I've been reporting this since 2013, I was fired this week. Antonio Guterres wants his legacy to be climate change. China's price for signing up to his climate change agreement is that they continue to receive names of dissidents, that they continue to have this influence. And in order to achieve that, Antonio Guterres had to fire the only staff member who has ever spoken up. And the cost is a genocide. Emma Reilly, thank you very much for joining us. No doubt we will resume this conversation. It's an absolute pleasure, and I commend you for your bravery and your